So we're nearly 3 months with our daughter. Yeah, it's been the most beautiful, wonderful, challenging experience of both of our lives so far. And yeah, speaking of challenges, there's definitely a fair amount of those along the way. But our first suggestion, tip, is to acknowledge when things are going well and to celebrate those small things.
She agrees.
She agrees. Yeah. To celebrate the small things. So just an example, in the early days, our daughter, she used to cry every time we changed her nappy and every time we'd get her out of the bath. So she was fine in the bath, but then when we got her out, she'd cry her eyes out, which is pretty much typical newborn behaviour. But it was just really challenging, especially at like 3 a.m. when you're changing a nappy and she's screaming. It was hard. But recently we noticed she doesn't cry anymore when we change her nappy, and she doesn't cry anymore when we get her out of the bath, and that's a positive. And I think there's lots of things that are challenging along the way, but it's recognizing when things are going well.
I think what often happens is that the things that you're really getting worked up about and stressed about, like the changes and the baths, those will often just resolve themselves over time. And it's probably quite easy to not acknowledge the fact that they were a big deal. I think it's important to think, oh, amazing, she's now getting out of the bath fine, or she's having her nappy changed and she's totally cool with that. So yeah, I think you've got to take a moment to take a step back and think, oh, that sorted itself out. And I think knowing that does happen is helpful in the moment when you're facing a different issue, just to know that chances are a few weeks' time that will no longer be an issue and you'll be sleeping well or whatever it is. So stay positive.
And it's all just a phase.
As a partner, you've just got to do your best to be as supportive as you can be. And even when things are feeling tough for yourself, I think just know that it's probably even tougher for your partner. So try and go the extra mile and be super patient and learn to say yes.
Yeah, and I think whether or not it's a partner or somebody else in your community, it's about accepting support from others. Whether or not it's a friend, family member, a work colleague, someone who might want to cook you some meals or help with watching over the baby whilst you have a shower. Just be okay with accepting that help because you really need it, especially in the early days. So we're pretty busy people and we like to have a full-on schedule. But one thing we learnt quite quickly was not to overplan and not to have too many visitors, especially in those early days. You're recovering, you might be learning to breastfeed, all of these things, and you really don't want to have everybody coming to your house in those tender moments because it might just feel uncomfortable and you might not feel as relaxed, and you need to be relaxed when you're going through that precious moment at the start.
Yeah, and I think as the partner or whoever it might be, I think you've got to try and almost gatekeep your time and make sure that people aren't pushing themselves into seeing you, because you will find that a lot of people come out of the woodwork to want to meet the baby, which is totally amazing, but you will need your time to yourself. So guard it because it's pretty precious.
Yeah, and don't also be afraid of cancelling plans if you make them, and especially in those early days, if the day's not going so well and you need to cancel, be okay with that. We've already had that experience of a day not going well and having to cancel, and most people are absolutely fine with it. So it's really important to set manageable expectations for yourself after labour. It's really easy to think, okay, yeah, at 6 weeks, if I get that check off from my GP, then I'm back to exercising and life continues as normal. But from what I've found, it can take a lot longer than that. And yes, acknowledge that everybody's recovery journey is different, but be kind to yourself. Don't push it too soon.
I think it's also true for your to-do lists. I think prior to having our baby, we were both really full on in achieving a lot in a day, and we still achieve a lot, it just looks very different. Our achieving a lot is now going for a walk or giving her a bath successfully without crying. So just manage your expectations with your to-do list and maybe productivity and everything else.